Hi guys, in today's short video clip I'm going to be covering a topic that can be a little difficult to discuss sometimes, and that is defenses against sexual assault, rape defense on the ground. Today's segment deals with a simple scenario where you're faced with one attacker, it's one-on-one, and there are no weapons involved, no multiple attackers. Although we will cover those in future videos, and I'll have an insert at the end of this video explaining where you can find more information about that. The techniques you're about to see are part of a broader video series that we filmed, and I'll just mention that at the end of the video. But for now, watch this, learn these techniques, and please practice them. There are two scenarios primarily that we're going to look at here. One is called the mount, where an opponent is sitting on top of you, trying to pin you down, potentially hit you or grab your wrists in order to achieve compliance. The second situation is what we call the guard position, where an opponent is already between your legs in an imminent rape position. For any woman, this is an extremely daunting prospect, and without the right training, this can feel incredibly intimidating. The good news is that on the ground, using the power of your hips and your legs, you are the equal of any man, because these techniques do not require strength. They simply require that you move yourself intelligently, and by doing so you can very quickly injure and disable a would-be rapist. The first technique we're going to examine is called the hug and bridge, and this is used in a situation where somebody is sitting on top of you in a mount trying to hit you or pin you down. The most basic version of this is in a situation where somebody is striking you. If you're on your back, it's important to always grab your head with both hands and squeeze your elbows together to form a shield to prevent yourself from getting struck in the face or head. Also remember to keep your knees bent and your feet flat on the ground for stability. From this position, rapidly reach up and grab your assailant, either by the shirt or the arm or even around the waist, and yank him forward. Yanking him forward forces him to place his hands on the ground next to you. And as he does so, you move to part 2. Loop one arm around the outside of his arm and one arm through the center. Link your hands together and rapidly slam or pull your arms down toward you so that you bend his elbow and force it against your shoulder or chest. In this position, he's trapped. Momentarily, he cannot move up and he cannot come down toward you because your other elbow is digging straight into his chest. Now for the final part of the movement, we perform the bridge. To do this, breathe out forcefully, shoot your hips up off the floor, and roll onto the shoulder on the same side as the arm you have trapped. This causes your opponent to lose balance and to be thrown from you so that you can turn and attack his eyes and throat from that position. It's important in the beginning to train this movement with a compliant partner so that you can get used to the movement, and once you've developed a measure of confidence, have your partner add increasing amounts of resistance to make it feel as realistic as possible. You may also have a situation where an opponent grabs your wrists. If this happens, instead of fighting him, simply relax and place your hands down near your head. The object here is to make him break his own posture by leaning forward. As soon as this happens, grasp the back of your neck or your head with one hand and raise your elbow toward his face, pinning his wrist against the side of your cheek or your head. With the other hand, point upward and away, sliding your wrist across the floor. This technique is called the wrist slide. And as you slide the wrist across and diagonally toward the other arm, causes your opponent's wrists to cross or align, which means that he is now off balance and is easier to throw off. We perform the bridge here in the same way, breathing out sharply, shooting the hips upward with force, and rolling onto the shoulder on the side on which we've trapped the opponent's arm. This movement has to be performed quickly and smoothly. Remember not to fight force with force. This is almost like wriggling out of a grab. Practice this diligently until you can do it in such a way that your partner can almost not feel what you're up to until it's too late. In this position, you may also have an opponent who tries to choke you. Here, we use exactly the same technique we did standing up. We use the hair gel. The only difference here is that we can't perform a full hair gel all the way around to the back of our head. So in this situation, grab the wrist, do the hair gel as far as you can, and once you feel the hand coming off your throat, Immediately raise your hand, grab your partner's shoulder or upper arm and pull him down, looping around his upper arm, trapping his elbow against the ground if possible. From that position, either bring your hand to his face or dig your thumb or knuckles into his ribs and bridge up and roll to the side, throwing him off. When throwing a partner off from this position, it's important to remember that you can easily dislocate somebody's shoulder as they fall with their arm trapped. So please exercise care with your partner. Do the movement slowly at first until you can do it with greater speed and accuracy. The next position we're going to look at is called the guard position, where an opponent is on his knees between your legs in an imminent rape position. The important thing here again is to ignore what your partner is doing or an opponent and focus on what you're about to do. The defense here is very, very simple. You want to bring your opponent toward you. For many women, this is counterintuitive and can feel very intimidating, but it's a vital part of breaking an opponent's posture and bringing his vital targets in reach so that you can disable him. To do this, raise your legs, clamp around his hips and yank him forward. At the same time, reach up, grab his head and pull his head down onto your chest, trapping it with his face to the side. Holding onto his head and hips, release one hand and drive a thumb deep into his eye. The object here is not just to poke the eye, but to drive your thumb through the eye, causing severe injury and disorientation. As soon as you've done this, stomp both feet back down to the ground. And as you do so, push your legs slightly away from yourself, driving your opponent's hip downward and away from you. This enables you to do the next movement, which we call shrimping. Shrimping is simply lifting your hips up and flopping them out to the side to create space. In other words, you're moving yourself out from underneath your opponent, while still holding onto the head. As soon as you've shrimped out to the side, raise a foot, put it into his hip and kick, blasting him away as you also push his head away from you. In the beginning, this is a very slow, deliberate step-by-step process, but with practice you'll be able to do the entire movement from start to finish in one smooth movement in less than 3 seconds. From the guard position, an opponent may also try to choke you. If you have both hands on your throat, remember again to perform the hair gel, and all you do here is you trap the opponent's arm, bring it down, and shrimp out instead of bridging. So your hips go out to the side. As soon as you place your foot in your opponent's hip, put your other hand in his face, and kick him and blast him away in exactly the same way. You may also have a situation where an opponent has one hand on your throat while his other hand is occupied elsewhere. In a case like this, we use a simple movement called the knee arm break. Essentially what you're doing here is grabbing your opponent's wrist, pushing it across your throat and trapping it in the crook of your arm. Squeeze tight, hold onto the arm, and at the same time push your opponent's face away using your free hand and shrimp your hips out in the opposite direction. Swing a leg up and over his face, locking your ankle under his chin as you roll onto your side. This enables you to trap him face down on the ground, and by yanking up on his wrist, it's very easy to break an opponent's elbow and then kick him away from that position. If you're in a situation where an opponent has knocked you down and is sitting on your back, the important thing here is to protect your neck from injury. So place both hands around the back of your neck, squeezing tightly and keeping your elbows together. From there, immediately dig one elbow in under your face, start twisting in order to get onto your side, and draw one knee up. By performing a series of quick jerky movements, you're able to turn yourself onto your back, and once you're on your back, you can do the normal hug and bridge that you practiced earlier. final technique in this module involves a situation where an opponent has bent you over a table or a similar object in order to control you. From here, it's very important to try and keep your elbows on the table, keep your hands under your head to prevent your head from being bumped or smashed against the table, and stabilize your posture by bending your knees slightly. From here, sink your hips down and extend one foot as far back as you can go, preferably between your opponent's feet. Once you find this position, breathe out, push away from the table, and rapidly booty bump your opponent up and away from you, using the power of your legs and hips. You'll be surprised how effective this movement really is. It's possible to throw an opponent 2 or 3 meters away with one simple, sharp, powerful movement. It's important to remember that if you have to, you can fight back, and you can do so successfully. If you do fight, you have to do so with full force and inflict serious damage to your attackers. Your only option is to win. You will not get a second chance. As soon as you have broken free, immediately try to access a weapon. Anything that you can strike with or cut is a very good option. Attack relentlessly until you have won or you can escape. I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you'd like to learn more about defending against sexual assault or sexual harassment in a number of scenarios, including multiple attackers, including the use of weapons on the ground to try and intimidate you, and how to realistically fight back against those things, then I encourage you to visit our website, www.edakravmaga.com, and there is a full-length video that you can purchase on the website, which costs in the region of around $14. It's billed in our local currency, but on your credit card it will show as $14, and that will teach you everything you need to know about dealing with pretty much almost any scenario you may be faced with. Once again, please go and practice these techniques, share them with your friends, because this could literally save a life. Thank you guys. See you in the next video.